Welcome, friends. Today we are going to continue our look into the murky world of the Canadian butter tart. And today's recipe is a little bit special. It is what most food historians agree to be the first time a butter tart recipe is seen written down in a cookbook. And this was in the Royal Victoria Women's Auxiliary Cookbook in Barrie, Ontario in 1900. And it's not actually called a butter tart recipe, it's just called Filling For Tarts. And all historians pretty much also agree that this recipe has existed for hundreds of years before that. This is just the first time that it was formalized into a cookbook. It would have been passed around through family, through oral tradition. It would have been written on a piece of paper and kept in a recipe box, passed around at the church. This recipe definitely existed before then. This just happens to be the first time we find it in a cookbook. So, first thing for a butter tart is butter into this bowl, and I'm just going to cream that together before we move on. Now, this is a recipe from a community cookbook around 1900. If you've been watching our Depression era series on Sunday mornings, where we do recipes from community cookbooks in that era, you'll know that these recipes are incredibly vague, and this one is no different. It's pretty much just a list of ingredients. It says to mix together and bake. No other instructions. And so the first ingredient is sugar, and it doesn't say what kind of sugar. And I've seen this recipe on a lot of blogs, and those bloggers have made it brown sugar. Which would be my first reaction to, oh, sugar, brown sugar. Looking at it from, the eye of 2019, we always sort of tend towards darker sugars in butter tarts, or maple syrup or dark corn syrup. But I've spoken to a bunch of food historians and recipe developers, and we all sort of looked at it. And in the eye of 1900, when it just says sugar, it means white sugar. Against my better judgment, based on what I know today, I'm going to use white sugar because that could be what was historically correct. Hard to know because the instructions are vague, and I have never made butter tarts with white sugar before. Maybe you have a different experience. Maybe your grandmother made white sugar butter tarts all the time and they were fantastic. I'm about to find out. So I'm going to cream the sugar into the butter. Next in, 2 eggs. 1 and 2. And we'll just cream those in as well. And now this recipe calls for currants, and not just a few currants, but a full cup of currants. Okay, nothing left to do but fill the pastry cases. Now, this batter is pretty thick, so I'm not going to be able to pour it in. I'm just going to have to scoop it in with the spoon. I think I've got it evenly between all of the tart cases. So, like all recipes from this era, it just says bake. It doesn't tell me what temperature or how long. I've looked at a pile of different recipes for butter tarts, and I know that most people seem to bake them somewhere between 350 and 450, which is quite a wide gap. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. I've got the oven at 400, and we're going to stick them in and see what happens.
So Glenn, it looks like we've got 2 slightly different tarts here.
So this is the one that we baked in the last episode out of the Stainer Community Cookbook.
Yes.
1938, 1939. Yep. Mrs.
George Johnson.
This is the recipe that is widely thought to be the first time that butter tarts appeared in print.
Okay.
So it's from a cookbook 1900 in Barrie.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're telling me is you believe that the butter tart
Oh, no.
first recipe
No.
published was in Barrie.
Everybody believes that the first
Huh.
published cookbook recipe was in Barrie.
Okay.
Everybody also believes that it probably existed for 200 years before that.
No one wrote it down. Everybody
no
just
one-
knew it.
you
Nobody
knew it.
needed to write it
I
down.
mean, there's only a few ingredients.
I see that they put 8 raisins in it too, though. Looks like.
Currants.
Yes, currants. Okay.
So let's cut this one open and see. Is it gooey? Is it stiff?
There's the first test, right?
It's kind of stiff.
That's okay.
A little bit on the stiff side, but lots of currants.
Lots of currants.
Okay. Now, taste it and tell me what you think.
Okay.
Because you don't know what's in it.
No. But it's not as brown as it usually is, so I'm a little... Apparently he's very pleased.
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know that I would call it... I mean, this is it. I mean, it's... There's a flavor that... It's a lovely tart.
It is. So here's it's white sugar. There's no brown sugar in it.
And that's the part that's missing. It's missing that caramely kind of...
There's no, so most recipes that we would know from, say, World War II on, loaded with brown sugar or maple syrup or dark corn syrup. This is just white sugar.
All right.
But it has the flavor. It has the butter content that I like.
Yeah, it's got a nice texture to it.
Yeah.
Egg? No egg. 2 eggs.
Mm-hmm. So
I could unfortunately eat many.
So I really like it.
I like it as well.
But it doesn't have that, as you said, that caramely flavor that people today would
Stuck in my lips.
associate with a butter tart.
But that's okay.
And that comes from the brown sugar. And I think, I look at this one, and I look at that one. That one was all brown sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it had nuts in it, which... I
Doesn't-
don't know. You put nuts in your... no. And it had too much of that flavor, to me.
Okay. So you feel like this one needed more butter,
This one needed more...
and this one needs a little something that will caramelize a little
bit more
better than
brown-
the white sugar.
a little bit more
Like
brown sugar.
The molasses or the...
Yeah. Yeah, and so even kind of cut the sugar half and half.
Was there any corn syrup in that one?
There's no corn syrup in it, no maple syrup. So, I think this is a good starting point if we wanted to play on it with our own recipes. But there's still 5 or 6 cookbooks inside with, dozens of butter tart recipes in them.
Yes.
So we're going to move on.
Ooh, there's more?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We're doing this for a few weeks, aren't we?
So why don't we do the Canadian cookbook next, the black book?
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
You
So
love that book.
we'll do the one in the black book and see how that works out.
Have you found any handwritten recipes from either of our families?
No, not yet. Not yet. And I know where they are. My mom always wrote them on the calendars. So whoever has all of the family calendars from like the 60s has the recipes. And I don't know where they are.
Okay.
And I'm still going to search because I know that this recipe was probably in a community cookbook prior to 1900. Had to have been. So I'm going to keep looking.
I don't know.
This is a good, if you want to have a starter tart, this is a really
Do
good
you want a
tart.
lovely fruit tart?
Yeah.
Raisin,
Yeah.
currant fruit tart?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. Oh, and leave in the comments what you think of butter tarts, your family recipe. Tell me all about yours, because I know people have some fairly strong opinions about butter
Raisins,
tarts.
no raisins, runny, not runny.
No nuts. No nuts.
Apparently his is no nuts.
See you again soon.